Hello. Good evening. What a beautiful night, huh?
Yes, very good.
All right, so I am Danielle Raganay, Mrs. Raganay to some people who might know me here in the crowd. I'm the astronomy and physics teacher at New Milford High School, and this is my first time presenting at Second Saturday Stars, although I've been here for quite a while. My presentation was supposed to be in March for Women's History Month, but we moved it to the day before Mother's Day, which is appropriate anyway. Women in astronomy. So I see a lot of young ladies here tonight, and hopefully this is a little inspirational to you all, and for the rest of you, informative. So I have the layout so you guys can see exactly where we're going to be going tonight with the presentation. I'll start with a little bit about some statistics about women being represented in astronomy, and then I will talk about some historical contributions from some pretty famous ladies in my life, and then some contemporary astronomers, women who are doing the science now, and the future of astronomy and how we can make it a little more equal for everybody, a little more representative. I'm going to ask you to hold your questions to the end of the presentation, but definitely hold them because I have a spot for answering. Okay? So, statistics and challenges. In 2017, women earned 33% of astronomy bachelor's degrees and 40% of doctorates. Now, women represent 50% of the population, so we can see how there's a little bit of a gap there between how much we're seeing women getting these degrees and how much we should be seeing, statistically speaking. On the faculty level at colleges, 19% of faculty members were women in 2014. That is very, very small. But news is good because in 2016, newly hired astronomy professors were up to 40%. So we're seeing some change in a positive direction there with that. What are some of the things that women see in science, but in astronomy in general? Well, bias. Women tend to not be taken seriously in the scientific community. Ideas get shot down quickly based on the name on the paper. Sometimes they're suggested that maybe they had help with their papers, maybe they didn't come up with the ideas themselves. Not always given opportunities to do things like speaking or have faculty positions granted to them or grants or funding, things like that. Women also face harassment. Comments about appearance are pretty common, whether it's positive or negative. Oh, she's really cute for an astronomer, or look at that lady. It happens a lot more for women than men. Unwanted advances resulting in retaliation, having to leave a position that they love because of poor harassment policies, favoring the harasser rather than the reporter, and other things like that. So we're trying to move away from that culture into something a little more equitable for everybody and more representative. So like I said, I'm going to start with some historical contributions. What you're looking at here is an image of the Harvard computers. This was before computers existed. I know we all live in a world where computers are everywhere, but before we had computers, it was people who did the computing. And these were some very smart ladies who did a lot of that work for male astronomers who got the credit. And one of those women was Annie Jump Cannon. So Annie Jump Cannon was one of the, I would say, founding mothers of astronomy. I called her the classifier of stars because she was one of the women who took all these pictures of stars and classified them into different categories based on the way that the light from them looked. She didn't really quite understand what that classification meant. That's for the next lady, but the two of them worked together and came up with this classification system that you see in the middle of the image there, OBAG, FKM. Oh, be a fine girl, kiss me, was the mnemonic device that she used to help students remember that in order. But what it is a temperature scale for stars. The hottest stars on the left, the coolest stars on the right. I also included a quote for each lady that I'm presenting tonight, and her quote I found very poignant. A life spent in the routine of science need not destroy the attractive human element of a woman's nature. I think that's important. That as a female scientist, that we are still being women, not being clones of men. And I think she recognized that very early on. She collaborated very closely with my next person, Cecilia Payne-Gaposchkin. She's the mother of modern astrophysics. She wrote the book on astrophysics. Any student going into college to learn astrophysics has her to thank directly. She was actually initially denied the chance to get an education in England and had to come to America to be able to pursue her PhD because women weren't allowed in those programs at that time. So she pushed through that and came to America, got her degree, worked with Annie Jump Cannon, looked at those classifications that were originally in alphabetical order and said, no, we're going to reorder it because it's actually a measure of temperatures. And once scientists realized that, it opened the book on stars for us, because before that time it was believed that stars were actually really hot balls of the same kind of stuff that the Earth is made of, just glowing because they were really, really hot. But that's not true at all. She determined that they're hot because of nuclear reactions, and the surface temperatures there were resulting in changes in the light coming off the stars. Her quote, "There is nothing personal in the thunderclap of understanding. The lightning that releases it comes from outside oneself." That means that the knowledge of science is not something that is special or given to one person in particular. The information is out there in the universe for anybody to discover. It's just about being in the right place at the right time, kind of like being struck by lightning, right? Maybe wrong place, wrong time for that one. The next lady is E. Margaret Burbidge, spotter of star stuff. How many of you are familiar with Carl Sagan? I have Sagan fans here? Yeah, my family better raise their hand. Carl Sagan coined the term star stuff to talk about the fact that inside the cores of stars, heavier elements are created at the end of their lives. And when those stars go supernova, some of them are large enough to do that, they splatter all that stuff out into the galaxy to be combined into new stars. And around those stars, planets, and on those planets, life. Like us. So everything that our body is made of, with the exception of hydrogen, was created in the core of a star that lived and died billions of years ago. We are all made of star stuff, and E. Margaret Burbidge was one of the discoverers of this process. She was very interesting to me because she was a trailblazer. You'll learn in a few minutes about the Annie Jump Cannon Award, which is awarded to women in astronomy, young up-and-coming women in astronomy. She was initially awarded the Annie Jump Cannon Award and declined it because she said, if my strong feeling is against any kind of discrimination, I have to stretch that to include discrimination for women too. She thought it was unfair that the award was just for women. She thought it should be for everybody. And one of her quotes talks about how she pushed through challenges. She was definitely pushed against being a woman in astronomy. So she said, a guiding operational principle in my life was activated. If frustrated in one's endeavor by a stone wall or any kind of blockage, one must find a way around another route towards one's goal. This is advice I have given to many women facing similar situations. I tell them, try it, it works. Push through. Keep trying. Don't give up. Okay. And my last historical astronomer was Vera Rubin, dark matter discoverer. So Vera Rubin is the person that we have to thank for understanding that dark matter exists in our universe. We still don't know what it is yet, but we know it's there. And we have her to thank for it. She actually looked at how fast stars were going around galaxies and said there's no way they could be going the speed they're going unless there was some unseen mass there at the center. And so we continue to try to figure out what that exactly is, but we have her to thank for knowing it's out there somewhere. And her quote is one of my favorites too. Science is competitive, aggressive, demanding, but it is also imaginative, inspiring, and uplifting. On to contemporaries. So here are some of our contemporary astronomers. I pulled these pictures from a Scientific American article. If anybody has read the article, you might recognize some of the pictures there. But these are all women currently in the field doing their thing. including Meg Urey down on the bottom left, who runs the observatory at Yale University here in Connecticut. And also played a very strong, integral part in the Baltimore Charter, which I'll be talking about momentarily. So, Sarah Seeger. I picked 3 contemporary astronomers that are in fields that I personally have a little bit of love for, and Sarah Seeger is definitely up there for me because she loves to study exoplanets, which are planets around other stars. Now, when I was in college doing my undergraduate research, my research was on eclipsing binary stars. Those are 2 stars that orbit around each other, and if they're lined up just right, they block each other's light, and you can kind of study how that light changes. Well, that's also one of the principal ways that we look at planets going around other stars. We see the brightness of the star dim as the planet crosses in front of it. And so her studying of exoplanets kind of led me to her and knowing about her as a young woman myself. She works at MIT. That's a little blurb about her on the top from the MIT website. But personally, she made a big difference in my life, studying the atmospheres of exoplanets, trying to figure out if they're habitable or not. I think that's a meaningful and very interesting field, so I chose to feature her tonight. Her quote, "Being a scientist is like being an explorer. You have this immense curiosity, this stubbornness, this resolute will that you will go forward no matter what other people say." And that is true for all scientists, but particularly women in the field. Andrea Ghez won a Nobel Prize in Physics in 2020 for her work on supermassive black holes. Huge inspiration. She works at UCLA, and to her, she says, "To me, has always been important to encourage young women into the sciences. So to me, the Nobel Prize means an opportunity and a responsibility to encourage the next generation of scientists who are passionate about this kind of work into the field. It's important to have role models, and that is important. It's important to be able to look up and see someone who looks like you being represented in these important discoveries and recognitions." And she's absolutely right on that. She also said, and I agree with this one as well, at every stage, someone has always said, "No, you can't do this because you're a girl." And I got very used to ignoring when people said I couldn't do something. There were times when people didn't believe our approaches would work. I was pretty well trained by then to believe in myself. Agree with that very much. And my last contemporary astronomer that I'm featuring is Heidi Hammel. Now, Heidi Hammel was a member of the board here at the observatory for many, many years and helped get this observatory up and running. She gave a very powerful speech at the 10th anniversary ceremony that we had here at the high school, and that was the first time I had ever met her, but it wasn't the first time I had ever seen her. I was a young girl in high school, and I had seen her on TV when the comet Shoemaker-Levy 9 crashed into Jupiter, which was an amazing event. If anybody is old enough here to remember it, it was pretty awesome watching this kind of string of pearls crash into Jupiter, and everybody thinks, what's going to happen? It's just going to disappear in the clouds, but it left this huge black eye on the planet, which was amazing. And she was running the Hubble telescope at that time and had sent those pictures over. And I remember watching video of her so excited as the pictures were being developed and saying, "Look, there it is." And I said, "Wow, look at this young woman." I mean, she was older than me, but she was young when it happened. And like all that passion and enthusiasm, that could be me someday. You know, it was very inspirational. And then to have the opportunity to work with her here and to be able to meet her was pretty amazing. Currently, she's working with the James Webb Telescope, which I'm sure since many of you here are interested in astronomy or are familiar with. But she also is a wonderful communicator and promoter of science education, which is near and dear to my heart as a science educator myself. Again, a good quote. My message is, don't be discouraged by anything anybody tells you. In my case of the science thing, I just ignored people who said, "Oh, girls don't do that." Um, as I've had personal experiences, and I've read many, many cases of women who've had the same experience. And I think that things are improving with time. And I think that the more of us who kind of push through and don't take it, the better it's going to get for everybody, because science works best when everybody is represented, not just one group of people. So where is this going in the future? Well, one of the things that helps to bring female astronomers into the forefront is the Annie Jump Cannon Award. And I just took some pictures from the last 5 years winners. This year's winner, 2024, Jennifer Bergner, right, says, for her innovative astrochemical work at the intersection of laboratory experiments, theory, and observations, which has established new pathways to interstellar chemical complexity. That's a lot of words there, but it's an important thing, because whatever little pieces she's able to put together in her laboratory allows astronomers like her and others to take that information and make meaning from it, so that we can tell stories about what's going on out there in the universe. One of the other interesting things that I came across as I was doing my research was the Baltimore Charter for Women in Astronomy. And this Meg Urey from Yale, along with hundreds of other astronomers, signed this a while ago. It's not a new thing, but it's an important thing. And the preamble for this Baltimore Charter, I'm just going to read that out to you and then talk a little bit. It says, we hold fundamental that women and men are equally capable of doing excellent science, that diversity contributes to, rather than conflicts with, excellence in science. Current recruitment, training, evaluation, and award systems often prevent the equal participation of women. Formal and informal mechanisms that are effectively discriminatory are unlikely to change by themselves. Both thought and action are necessary to ensure equal participation for all. And increasing the number of women in astronomy will improve the professional environment, and improving the environment will increase the number of women. So it's an important thing to think about. And the second to last point, I think, is an important one, especially when we talk about how these things are not going to change by themselves. We can't sit and hope that things are going to get better in our lives. We have to be that active participant in things to make them better for everyone, not just ourselves. And so I thought that it was an important thing to talk about tonight. The other piece at the bottom there, the call to action, it's a lot of words. Basically, they're saying we have to change the way that we invite women into the sciences, the way that they're offered jobs, the way that we decide who's going to get teaching and professorships. But one of the other parts at the bottom talks about how women should not have to be clones of male astronomers in order to participate in the mainstream of astronomical research. And I think that's important as well, because sometimes the drive is for equal. We're all astronomers, we shouldn't see gender. But I personally think that we should be seeing the gender, but we should be recognizing and embracing those differences in order to bring some flavor or spice or different perspectives into the science, because it will grow faster that way than just everybody in an echo chamber. And that is where I'm done talking about me. Any questions? So the 33% was bachelor's degrees, and it was 40% of PhDs.
Okay.
For women in astronomy.
Is that indicative of, and you mentioned women represent 50% of the population. Do they represent 50% of the people who apply for those degrees? Or is that also influenced by factors such as bias against women and discourage applying?
I I don't have those statistics about the number of people who've applied for those degrees, but my assumption is that a smaller percentage of women come into the programs in the first place, but I don't have that data.
Okay, it just kind of sounded like the point was that women are less likely to be accepted.
Or less likely to go into it in the first place.
Yeah, I might have misunderstood.
Yes.
I'm gonna say that I hope the boys were listening very well because women's history might have been a little bit boring.
Well, I can't help what's boring for people, but I can try, right? To make people listen. I teach for a living, so I do that all the time.
What you have to know is elementary school teachers are actively pursuing girls as well as boys in some science. What are they doing to start the process of having people interested in science?
That's a great question, and I'm pretty sure there's an elementary educator in the audience somewhere. Mrs. Crawford? So the question was, are elementary teachers putting in any initiatives to help increase the participation of girls or the interest of girls in science at that level? Are there any special initiatives?
So it gets a little tricky because of Title IX. So we try to encourage girls as much as we can to participate in all the programs in the sciences, whether it's computer science or earth science or whatever's offered at their particular school. But we have to have equity just because of the Title IX. If it's for students at the elementary level, it's for all students.
So we can't say girls only science club because it excludes others.
I try.
But but we encourage. Yes.
Will we be able to go in there and
Well, I don't think you'll be able to look through the telescopes tonight because it's really cloudy. But normally after the speech is when you would go and look through them. You can come up and look at the telescopes in a little while, but I don't know if you'll be looking through them. Okay? Yes?
Danielle, could you talk a little bit about your experiences when you were their age? What kind of put you on a path with the interest in science?
What put me on a path and interest in science? Well, I've always been a curious person. I've always enjoyed learning. I've been a lifelong learner my entire life. Originally, I was probably 6 years old and I wanted to be a paleontologist. I really thought dinosaurs were super cool. But then I remember going to a Scholastic book fair as a little girl and finding a book called A Book About Planets and Stars. I still have that book somewhere in my basement in a box. And in that book, it had pictures from the Voyager probes that had taken images of all the outer planets and had, that was the first time we had pictures of the outer planets like that. And I guess I'm giving my age away a little bit. But I remember looking at the pictures of Jupiter and Saturn and the moons, Europa for example, and saying, wow, these are amazing places. It's so different from the Earth. There's not a surface to stand on here. This is really cool. And then learning about stars and thinking about that vast immensity of space and all the stuff that was going on there. I just wanted to learn more and more and more and more and more. And eventually I went to college and I started taking astronomy classes and I learned so much about stuff. I probably forgot more than I've learned at this point, but a lot of stuff. I've just always enjoyed it. I've always found a lot of satisfaction in learning things and being part of this cosmos, trying to know itself. Yes, little question down there. What is the aurora borealis? So sometimes a when? Well, you might be able to see it if the clouds break up enough tonight because there was a big solar storm that's making all the gases glow in the atmosphere. But you might have to wait a little bit until it's really dark out. All right? Yes.
Can
AJMO has plenty of opportunities. Do you live locally?
Yeah.
So then you should put yourself in touch with the volunteers here, and they will get you started in using the telescopes, taking pictures. You don't have to necessarily have all the math and physics that I learned in college to be a good astronomer here at the observatory. Definitely, if anybody is interested in being more of a participant, girls and boys, men and women, come on over and chat afterwards. I saw a hand here. Yeah.
Right along that line, I actually have a friend who graduated with a planetary science degree a little while ago, and she's been looking into like job opportunities for struggling in that direction.
Yeah.
What is some advice? Where's the direction in terms of
Education?
education, but like jobs, like or internships or anything like that? What's the next step after a pass?
Well, I know that WestCon offers a master's degree in Earth and Planetary Sciences. So she could look at pursuing the next level of degrees there. She could look into education like what I did with a bachelor's degree in Earth and Planetary Sciences. She could get certified to be a science teacher and actually help inspire young people to come on. She could look at master's degree programs at other schools and get into research programs. And I think it's more about finding an area that you're interested in and emailing professors and really putting yourself in there. So doing research on those different offerings at different universities and stuff in the area. But start with WestCon. If she's already there, she should be talking to Dr. Dawson. If he's still there.
I don't know how things are right now at Westcon with that major. I'll show.
Okay. Yeah, and she can get in touch with people here too. There are people here who know people who know people. So, questions? I saw another hand up there. Yeah.
I work at the Public Library, and we have a telescope. There might be two telescopes that we rent out to anybody who wants to borrow it, and it's totally free.
Okay.
Everybody hear that?
So there are 2 telescopes at the New Milford Public Library that can be rented for anybody who'd like to borrow it. So if you have I guess you have to have a membership,
Library club.
a library card, but if you want a telescope, you can go get one and bring it back. Other questions? Yes?
I'd like to know why the disparity of men and women in astronomy.
Do you know why, Mr. Robeson?
Indeed.
Why is there a disparity?
Because men are terrified that if women get in, they will be shown to be smarter.
We're pretty good at hiding
my
it
theory.
though. Okay.
Thank you,
I
Jen.
don't see any other questions. Oh, one more?
Yes. I heard like a loud noise. What's that called?
I don't know. I'm sorry.
And then we also saw people run. Oh yeah.
Oh, okay. Pretty cool. All right. Well, everybody have a wonderful evening.
Very nice.